I never thought coming home could feel so strange. The drive from the airport to the mansion felt longer than I remembered. Connecticut in early spring is supposed to be beautiful. Trees just starting to bloom, birds chirping, but all I felt was this heavy knot in my stomach, like the house itself was waiting for me with bated breath. When I finally pulled up to the driveway, the mansion looked just like I remembered. Grand, imposing, a little too perfect. My father had worked hard for this place, and it showed in every polished floor, every sculpted hedge. But something about it felt off. Maybe it was because I was coming home not for a vacation, but because my father was sick. Or maybe it was because the people inside it had changed. Or maybe I had. I carried my bags through the front door and immediately smelled the faint, familiar scent of my mother's perfume, mixed with the antiseptic smell from the nurse who had been staying the past few weeks. "Emma, you're here!" Mom's voice echoed from the living room, bright and almost too cheerful. I forced a smile, hugged her, and felt that familiar unease prickling the back of my neck. Dad was sitting in his favorite armchair by the window, looking smaller than I remembered, frailer. His hair was thinner, his once bright eyes dimmer, and there was this way he gripped the armrest, like he was holding himself together. "Emma," he said softly, and the corners of his mouth twitched as if he was trying to smile. "Good to see you." I walked over and sat beside him, reaching for his hand. "Dad, I'm here. I'll help however I can." He nodded, but there was a hesitation in his eyes I couldn't read. I had always thought I knew my father, but now, looking at him, I realized I barely knew anything about the real Henry Carter. That night during dinner, the house felt tense. Lucas, my older brother, sat across from me, chewing his steak in that slow, deliberate way that always made me nervous. He'd grown taller, broader, more confident since I'd last seen him, but there was something cold in his smile that I didn't like. Rachel, his wife, sat beside him, chatting animatedly with my mom. Her laughter tinkling like glass, but I couldn't shake the feeling that it was all an act. I tried to join in, asking about Lucas's work and Rachel's new project at the art gallery, but every answer seemed rehearsed, every laugh a little too loud. I caught my mother shooting Lucas a look whenever I asked a question, and it made me pause. Why did it feel like I was already the outsider in my own family? After dinner, I wandered through the house, trying to shake the heaviness clinging to me. I passed the study and noticed the door slightly ajar. Curiosity got the better of me. Inside, I saw my father's laptop open on the desk, his email inbox flashing with notifications. Something made me glance over his shoulder, and that's when I saw it. There were several bank transfers, amounts I couldn't understand, labeled with cryptic notes and dates. And some of the transfers, they weren't going to anyone I recognized. My heart started pounding. "Dad, what is all this?" I whispered to myself. But there was no answer. I shut the laptop gently, telling myself I must be imagining things. Families have secrets, right? Maybe it was just business stuff I wasn't supposed to know. But deep down, a cold fear settled in my chest. Something was wrong, and I had a sinking feeling that the moment I walked back into this house, my life was about to change in ways I couldn't yet imagine. I went to bed that night, but sleep wouldn't come. My mind kept replaying what I saw, the half smile on Lucas's face, Rachel's laughter, the way my mother avoided my gaze. I had a feeling I was about to uncover things that would shake the foundation of everything I thought I knew about my family. And I didn't realize then that was just the beginning of the nightmare. The next morning, I woke up early, not because I wanted to, but because my mind refused to rest. I went downstairs hoping a cup of coffee might calm me, but the kitchen was empty, silent except for the faint hum of the refrigerator. I poured myself a cup and wandered out to the terrace. The sun was just rising, painting the manicured lawns in gold, but the beauty around me felt fake, like a perfect stage set for something sinister. That's when I saw Lucas in the garden, on the phone, pacing. His expression was tight, almost angry, and the words I could barely hear made my stomach twist. "No, I told you, I need it done by tonight. We can't afford a slip-up this time." He hung up and ran his hand through his hair, muttering under his breath. I wanted to confront him, ask him what he was talking about, but part of me froze. Lucas had always been controlling, and I knew he had this way of intimidating people without raising his voice. So I stayed quiet and retreated to the kitchen, pretending to sip my coffee while trying to figure out what I had just overheard. Later that day, my mother pulled me aside. "Emma, honey, I don't want you to get involved in things you can't handle," she said softly, her eyes darting toward Lucas's study. I frowned. "Mom, what's going on? Something is happening here. I can feel it." She sighed, rubbing her forehead. "Your father. He's been under a lot of pressure lately. There are family matters, financial things that maybe you're not ready to understand yet." But I didn't believe her. The unease had been building ever since I arrived, and now I knew it wasn't just my imagination. Something about Lucas and those transfers I saw on Dad's laptop didn't add up. And Rachel, her laughter, her perfect smiles, they all felt like pieces of a puzzle I wasn't supposed to see yet. That evening, I decided to confront Lucas, but carefully. I found him in the library, reading a thick report like he was preparing for a battle. "Lucas," I said quietly, "can we talk?" He looked up, and for a moment I thought he might actually smile, but it didn't reach his eyes. "About what?" he asked, closing the folder slowly. "About Dad's accounts. I saw some transfers. I just want to understand what's happening." My voice wavered, betraying the nervousness I was trying to hide. He leaned back in his chair, studying me. "Emma, some things are better left alone. Trust me, you don't want to get involved." His words sent a shiver down my spine. I nodded slowly, pretending to drop the subject, but inside my mind was racing. Why was he so protective of Dad's finances? And why did it feel like he was hiding something big? That night, I couldn't sleep again. The house was quiet, but the shadows in the corners seemed heavier. And then I heard it, a soft creaking sound outside my bedroom door. I froze. Footsteps. Deliberate, slow, cautious. My heart raced. I peeked through the blinds and saw a shadow moving in the hallway. It was Rachel, tiptoeing toward Dad's study. Why was she sneaking around at night, and why did it feel like she didn't want me to see her? I stayed hidden, watching as she opened the study door and rifled through the papers on Dad's desk. My stomach dropped. What were they hiding? And how deep did this secret go? I didn't know it yet, but what I had just witnessed was the first real crack in the family facade. A crack that would soon widen into a chasm, and it was about to swallow all of us. The next day, I couldn't focus on anything. Every conversation, every smile in the house felt like it had a hidden meaning. I kept replaying Rachel in Dad's study, the way her hands shook slightly as she rifled through the papers. Something wasn't right, and I needed answers. I decided to check the study when everyone was out for lunch. My hands trembled as I opened the door. Dad's desk was immaculate now, as if nothing had been touched. But a single envelope caught my eye. It was plain, no labels, no return address, and yet I felt a magnetic pull toward it. I opened it, and my heart sank. Inside were documents, transfers, contracts, account numbers, everything pointing to a series of large transactions going to a company I'd never heard of. And then I saw a name that made my blood run cold. Lucas. He had been moving money from Dad's accounts to his own offshore account. My mind raced. Why would he do this? I whispered to myself. I felt betrayed, scared, and confused all at once. Lucas, the man I married, was hiding a criminal act right under my nose. Before I could digest it, my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "Stop looking into what doesn't concern you. It's dangerous." I froze. My hands shook as I stared at the text. How did they know? Was Lucas watching me, or was someone else involved? I couldn't confront him yet, not without proof, so I started documenting everything, taking photos of the documents, writing down account numbers, dates, amounts. I knew I was walking a thin line between uncovering the truth and putting myself in danger. That evening, I tried to act normal at dinner, but the tension was unbearable. Lucas kept glancing at me, and Rachel was unusually quiet, as if she knew I had seen something. Then came the moment I hadn't expected. My father's voice, calm but sharp. "Emma, can I speak with you in the library?" I followed him, my stomach in knots. Dad closed the door behind us and turned to me. "I know what you found," he said softly. "I didn't want you to see it this way." "Dad, what is happening?" "Lucas, he's... My voice cracked. Dad took a deep breath. "Emma, I should have told you sooner. Lucas is your husband, yes, but he's not who he seems. He's been under pressure from his family. There's money, power, influence involved. He thought he could manipulate the accounts without anyone noticing. And Rachel, she's been helping him." I couldn't breathe. My husband, my sister-in-law, working together to steal from my family? It felt like the floor had disappeared beneath me. Dad continued, "You have to be careful, Emma. If they find out you know, it could get dangerous. Promise me you won't confront them yet. Let me handle it." I nodded numbly, but inside, a fire ignited. I couldn't just sit back. Not when the people I trusted most were betraying me. And deep down, I knew this was only the beginning. That night, as I lay in bed, I realized something horrifying. Lucas had never loved me. Every word, every touch, every promise, it had all been a lie. And Rachel, her smiles had always been a weapon, her presence a constant reminder that I was an outsider in my own family. I closed my eyes, trying to will away the fear, but I couldn't escape the truth. My life, my family, my marriage, they were all unraveling. And somewhere in the shadows, Lucas and Rachel were already planning their next move. The next morning, I woke up with a single thought. I couldn't let them win. I had to know the full extent of Lucas and Rachel's plan before confronting anyone. I started my secret investigation, carefully watching their every move while pretending nothing had changed. I began by going through Lucas's office when he was out. His laptop was locked, his files encrypted, but I remembered Dad's words. He had connections and experience with these kinds of things, so I reached out to an old friend of mine, someone I trusted completely, who worked in cybersecurity. I told her everything, and she agreed to help me access Lucas's files without leaving a trace. Over the next few days, I discovered shocking details. Lucas and Rachel weren't just siphoning money, they were plotting to sell parts of the family business to a competitor. The more I dug, the angrier I became. How could they betray me, my father, our family legacy like this? One evening, I overheard them whispering in the kitchen. "Are you sure she hasn't seen anything yet?" Rachel asked nervously. Lucas laughed softly, a cold, calculated sound. "She might be suspicious, but she'll never guess the full plan. By the time she knows, it'll be too late." Hearing that, my blood ran cold. They truly believed I was powerless, that I was oblivious to their schemes, but they were wrong. I decided to confront Rachel first. I had to know why she was helping Lucas. I found her alone in the garden, pretending to water the plants. "Rachel," I said, keeping my voice calm, "why are you doing this? Why betray Dad? Betray me?" She froze, her hands shaking slightly. "Emma, you don't understand. It's complicated," she whispered. "Complicated?" I snapped, anger flaring. "You're talking about stealing from your own family, selling our business, ruining our lives. How is that complicated?" Tears welled up in her eyes. "I didn't want to, okay? Lucas, he said if I didn't help, he would ruin everything for all of us. He said things about Dad's financials, things I didn't want to believe, but he threatened me." Her confession hit me like a punch.
Rachel wasn't just greedy, she was scared, trapped in Lucas' manipulations. And yet, she had actively participated in this betrayal. "I don't know if I can forgive you," I said, my voice trembling. "But you need to help me fix this before it's too late. Otherwise, we all lose." She nodded silently, her face pale and anxious. "I'll help," she whispered. With Rachel reluctantly on my side, I had a plan forming. I would gather all the evidence, expose Lucas, and confront him. But I also knew one thing. Lucas wouldn't go down without a fight. And deep down, I feared the next revelation, because I had a gut feeling that there was someone else involved I would never expect. The next few days felt like walking on a tightrope over a pit of fire. I had to be careful because one wrong move and Lucas and Martin would know I was onto them. I spent every free moment with Rachel, going through more files, screenshots, and financial records. We were building a case, piece by piece.
One evening, I decided it was time to confront Lucas directly. I found him in his office, leaning back in his chair, looking smug as ever. "Emma," he said without looking up, "I was wondering when you'd show up." "I know what you've been doing," I said, my voice shaking with a mix of anger and fear. "You and Uncle Martin, stealing from Dad, plotting behind our backs. It ends now." Lucas finally looked at me, his smile fading. "You're brave, I'll give you that. But bravery doesn't change the facts. The money is already gone. The contracts are signed. You're too late." I gritted my teeth. "No, not yet. I've got proof, Lucas. Every transfer, every email. If this goes public, you're finished. And so is Martin." He laughed. "You think Dad will believe you? You think the family will. They'll side with me before they side with you, little sister. Always have, always will." I felt a pang of doubt, but I pushed it aside. "Maybe, but I've got something you don't." I pulled out my phone and projected the evidence on the screen. Bank statements, screenshots of emails, hidden transfers, all the proof of their betrayal. Lucas froze. I saw the color drain from his face. Martin's face flashed in my mind, imagining him seeing this evidence. How did you get this?" he stammered. "I was smart," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. "I didn't just stumble upon it. I worked for it. And now you have a choice. Return what you stole, or I go public, and everyone knows what you really are." Lucas's face twisted in anger. "You think you can scare me? You don't know who you're messing with." "I know exactly who I'm messing with. But don't forget, I know Martin too. And the moment you two try to cover this up, everything falls apart, and you won't survive it." For a long moment, the room was silent. Then Lucas slammed his fist on the desk. "You think you've won? This isn't over, Emma, not by a long shot." I didn't flinch. "It is over. For you, for Martin, and for anyone else who thought they could betray this family and get away with it." That night, I couldn't sleep. My heart was pounding, my mind racing. I knew Lucas and Martin wouldn't give up easily, but I had taken the first step. I had exposed them, and for the first time in weeks, I felt a flicker of hope that maybe, just maybe, our family could survive this. But deep down, I knew the hardest part wasn't over. Secrets had a way of lingering, and even when the truth comes out, the scars it leaves behind can last forever. The morning after confronting Lucas, I woke to an uneasy quiet in the house. It was as if the walls themselves were holding their breath. I stayed in my room, trying to make sense of what had happened, and wondering how much damage had already been done. By late morning, Dad called me into his study. His face was pale, and I could see the worry lines etched deeper than I'd ever seen. "Emma," he began, voice trembling slightly, "what's going on with Lucas? And Martin?" I took a deep breath, knowing there was no turning back. "Dad, I found out everything. The money transfers, the secret accounts, the deals behind your backs. I have all the proof. I couldn't let them keep hurting you or the family."
His eyes widened, a mix of shock and disbelief. All this time, I trusted them. I know, I said softly. I trusted them too, but now you can see the truth. We spent hours going through the evidence together. The betrayal was deeper than I had imagined. Lucas had siphoned off nearly half of Dad's savings, funneling money into accounts he controlled. And Martin, my uncle, the man I had looked up to my whole life, he had been helping Lucas from the shadows. Dad sat back in his chair, rubbing his face. I can't believe it. Both of them. I thought family meant loyalty. I know, Dad, but now we know the truth, and we can stop them before they destroy everything. The following days were tense. Lucas tried to manipulate the family, spreading lies and claiming I was jealous and paranoid. But thanks to the evidence, no one bought it. Even my younger cousins, who adored Lucas, started questioning him. Then came the shocking final twist. Martin, my once beloved uncle, tried to bribe me into silence. He offered a share of the stolen money if I agreed not to go public. I felt my stomach churn. The man I had loved as a child was trying to buy my conscience. I refused. I couldn't. Not after everything. With Dad's support, I confronted them once last time. This time it was public, a formal meeting with lawyers and the family present. Lucas and Martin tried to deny it, but the evidence was undeniable. The betrayal was exposed. Lucas lost his position in the company and was legally bound to return the stolen funds. Martin faced severe consequences for his part. Our family was shaken, but we survived. In the end, it wasn't about money. It was about trust, about realizing that the people you think you know best can hide the darkest secrets, about finding your own strength when the people you love disappoint you the most. As for me, I finally felt free. I had faced betrayal, danger, and heartbreak, and I had survived. And though the scars remained, I knew I had proven something to myself that even in the darkest moments, courage and truth could light the way. And yet, sometimes when I walk past Lucas's old office, I can't help but wonder, are some people truly capable of change, or is betrayal just in their blood? Months passed after the confrontation. Life slowly returned to a fragile kind of normal. Dad focused on rebuilding the company, this time with me by his side more than ever. The betrayal had scarred us, but it also made our bond stronger. I realized that sometimes the people who hurt you the most can also teach you the greatest lessons about resilience. Family gatherings were quieter now. The empty seats where Lucas and Martin used to sit were a constant reminder of what had happened. My younger cousins seemed more cautious, more aware that not everyone who smiles at you is loyal. I tried to be there for them, to show that trust is earned, not given blindly. And then, just when I thought the nightmare was behind me, I got a call one evening. It was from an unknown number. My heart raced as I answered. "Emma, it's me," a familiar voice whispered. My blood ran cold. It was Lucas. "I'm out of jail, and I want another chance. Just hear me out."
I hung up. My hands were shaking. Part of me wanted to laugh at the audacity. Another part of me remembered the man I once knew, the cousin everyone adored. I realized that life doesn't always give neat endings. Sometimes the scars remain. Sometimes the people who hurt you come back, testing whether you've truly healed or whether old wounds can bleed again. I looked out my window that night, thinking of Dad, of my family, and of the strength I had found within myself. I knew one thing for sure. No matter what Lucas, or anyone like him, tried next, I would never be the same. I had learned to protect myself, to trust my instincts, and to value the people who truly mattered. And maybe that was enough. But somewhere deep down, I couldn't shake the feeling that this story wasn't entirely over. The days after Lucas's call were the hardest I'd faced in years. I kept replaying his words in my head, trying to decipher what he really wanted.
Part of me wanted to ignore it, pretend he didn't exist, but curiosity and a strange, lingering hope gnawed at me. One night, unable to sleep, I decided to take a walk through the neighborhood. The streets were quiet, but something felt off. As I passed the old park where I used to play as a child, I saw a figure leaning against a lamppost. My heart skipped a beat. "Emma," Lucas said, stepping into the light. He looked different, older, harder, but still the same cousin who had once shared every secret and dream with me. "What are you doing here?" I demanded, my voice shaking more than I wanted. "I needed to see you, just once, to explain," he said, his eyes desperate. "I never wanted things to get so out of control. I made mistakes, big mistakes, but I've changed. I swear it." I wanted to scream, to tell him to leave, but I didn't. There was something in his eyes that tugged at old memories, the laughter, the trust, the bond we had shared before everything fell apart. "I don't know if I can ever forgive you," I whispered, my voice barely audible. "You don't have to forgive me," he said, stepping closer. "Just hear me. That's all I ask." Against my better judgment, I nodded. We sat on the park bench for hours, talking in hushed voices, recounting the past, the betrayals, the lies, and then he dropped a bombshell I never saw coming. "It wasn't just me," he said, finally looking away. "Martin, he didn't act alone. There's someone else in the family, someone who wanted all of this to happen." I froze. My mind raced. Could it be Dad? Aunt Karen? Uncle James? "You'll find out soon enough," Lucas said, a shadow of fear passing over his face. "But you have to promise me. You can't tell anyone yet, not until it's safe." I didn't know whether to feel relief, anger, or fear. One thing was certain. The nightmare I thought was over was just beginning again. And in that moment, I realized something terrifying. Family secrets don't die. They just wait, quietly, for the right moment to explode. The next morning, I woke up feeling hollow, like someone had pulled the rug out from under me. I couldn't focus at work, couldn't eat, couldn't even breathe properly. Lucas's words kept echoing in my mind. Someone else in the family. Someone who wanted all of this to happen. I tried to shake it off, thinking maybe he was exaggerating, but deep down, I knew better. I had grown up in this family long enough to recognize that beneath the smiles and polite dinners, there was always tension, whispers, and secrets. That evening, I received an anonymous text. "Stop digging, or you'll regret it. You know who's watching." My heart raced. I sat frozen, staring at the message, realizing that Lucas's warning wasn't just a story. Someone was actually manipulating everything from the shadows. The next few days were a blur. I noticed subtle changes around me. Files missing from my desk, my phone battery draining faster than usual, my emails being read before I even sent them. I couldn't tell if it was paranoia or if someone really was monitoring me. One night, I decided to confront Dad. He was sitting in the study, reading one of his thick finance books, a calm mask on his face. "Dad, I need to ask you something," I started cautiously. He looked up, adjusting his glasses. "Sure, Emma, what is it?" I took a deep breath. "Do you know anything about Lucas's warning? About someone in the family? Someone planning something?" His face darkened for the first time I could remember. He leaned back, clasping his hands together. "Emma, some things are better left alone. You don't want to open doors that can't be closed. That wasn't a denial. That was a warning. Determined not to back down, I decided to investigate on my own. I started combing through old family documents, emails, and even financial records. That's when I discovered something shocking. A hidden bank account under my mother's name. But the transactions were recent. Large sums of money moving in and out, and it wasn't from any legitimate source I recognized. And then it hit me. Someone in the family had been siphoning money, manipulating situations, and using lies to cover their tracks. I knew I had to confront them, but who? And if I choose wrong, I might lose everything, including my safety. The next day, I received another message. You're closer than you think. Don't trust anyone. My hands trembled as I read it. That was when I realized the enemy wasn't outside the family. It was inside. And if I didn't act fast, the next betrayal could destroy me completely. I decided the only way forward was to confront someone directly. But who? Mom seemed fragile, like she wouldn't dare cross me. Dad was distant, but there was something unreadable in his eyes. Lucas, I trusted him, but I couldn't risk dragging him into this until I had proof. So I started with my Aunt Claire, Dad's sister. She had always been charming, the kind of person everyone loved, but something about her had always felt off. I invited her over under the pretense of helping me organize some family records. As soon as she walked in, her smile was like sunshine, warm and bright, but I knew better. "Emma, it's so good to see you," she said, giving me a hug that felt just a little too long. "Thanks for coming, Claire. I need your help with some old family documents," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. She laughed lightly. "Of course, anything from my favorite niece." We went through boxes of old papers, financial statements, and photos. I kept my eyes on her, watching for any sign of nervousness. And then I saw it. A folder labeled with Dad's handwriting, but Claire was the one holding it. Her hand trembled slightly as she flipped through it. Interesting, isn't it? The way money moved between accounts, the way certain decisions were made, almost like someone was planning behind everyone's back. She smiled, faltered for the briefest second. That was all I needed. "Emma, you're reading too much into this," she said quickly, closing the folder. "No, Claire, I think I'm seeing it clearly for the first time. Someone's been controlling things. Someone's been lying. And it might even be someone we trust." Her eyes narrowed. "Be careful, Emma. You don't know what you're getting into." That was it. The first real crack in the armor. She was hiding something, and I knew I had to dig deeper. That night, I stayed awake, going over everything I knew. I realized the betrayal went deeper than I thought. The anonymous texts, the hidden bank account, the careful manipulation of family events. It wasn't just about money. It was about control. And it had been happening for years. Then I remembered something Lucas had said. Someone wants to see you fail. Someone close to you. I had to figure out who before it was too late. And that's when I saw it. An email in Dad's account. One he must have forgotten to delete. It was from Claire. The subject line made my stomach drop. "Make sure she doesn't find out. Everything must stay in place." I froze. My own family plotting against me, against us all. At that moment, I realized the nightmare wasn't over. It was just beginning.